It is clear to me that men today have to make a choice. That choice is whether they are going to continue to uphold the systems of wealth inequality, systemic and cultural misogyny that allow someone like Epstein to wield so much power over policy by exploiting the sexual desires of powerful men. Or are they going to dedicate themselves and their lives to fighting this power? Not just fighting this power, though. Hating the right people simply is not enough. It should not be what motivates you, but also helping the victims of this system and building a new world where such crimes aren't just called unthinkable, but actually are unthinkable. Though few men will openly defend everything Epstein did, they will repeat the same excuses that allow him to do it, despite this being the most horrific type of misandry imaginable. Seriously, I cannot fathom why so many men who are not sex predators will say that boys will be boys and say that rape is a crime of passion and not violence or misogyny, and deny that rape culture is a thing, and act like rape is rare, but men going to prison due to false allegations is not, and that rape is natural, or most rape is just a misunderstanding and not men's fault because they can't control themselves. So feminism says that men can control themselves. And to be honest, if it were true that men can't control themselves, well, then society would have to drastically change and limit men's freedom to make sure that women don't get raped. The solution is not for women to endure sexual assault, to learn self-defense, and to do everything they can not to arouse men's sexual desires, to never go out alone or get drunk, and to live their lives in fear of this thing that's totally not a problem, but also should dictate every part of our lives from a disturbingly young age. But if it doesn't, you can bet that women and girls will be blamed because we can't blame the rapists, because we should know that this was a big problem. But also, if we act like it's a big problem in a way that is detrimental to men, or even makes men feel kind of sad, especially if they have to reconsider their own behavior, much less change anything about their lives, for the love of God, even do something to help us, then we're overreacting. In short, rape is only a problem when women don't do enough to prevent it. But it is exaggerated when men are inconvenienced by any expectation of helping to prevent it. If your response to hearing women's reactions to being asked the man bear question is to blame the women rather than the rapists or the system that constantly enables, defends, and normalizes sexual assault, I swear to you from the bottom of my heart, it is okay that your first reaction is this. But what I care about is your second reaction. The reaction that thinking this is completely ridiculous and interrogating why this is your reaction. Because strangers, despite your gender, don't owe you their trust. And you not being automatically granted this trust is not the same as women having to be ever vigilant in guarding their bodily sovereignty in a world that not only robs us of this, but blames us for that theft. So pick a side. You could be on the side of people of all genders who are not sexual predators, or you could be on the side of sexual predators. Rape is a crime of violence and misogyny, not a crime of passion. Rape does happen in nature, but we do not hold animals to the same standards of right and wrong like we do human beings. It is not comparable, and the way rape happens in nature is not the way it generally happens for humans. Rape is also not something that evolution tends to select for, especially in species that require a massive amount of parental investment like human beings. But I can prove that rape is not about lust. So hypothetically, let's say you are a straight man and you are trying to have sex with a woman because you are super horny. And let's say they say no. And you know that if you rape them, you will not face any consequences. Do you stop? Or do you continue just because you're so horny? Because if you continue, what this means is that your desire for sexual gratification is more important to you than your respect for women's bodily sovereignty. And the women being traumatized and suffering does not impede your sexual desire. And I'm sorry, but I cannot see how caring about your own sexual gratification more than the bodily sovereignty of another person is normal. I cannot see how that's not rooted in either misogyny or psychopathy. Being able to continue or even enjoy sex, knowing that the person you're having sex with is not a willing participant or enjoying the act, is the worst kind of violence. It is not lust. Indeed, it is common for men to lose erection when women resist or put up a fight, as if their own bodies are telling them that this is wrong. And unfortunately, it is also fairly common for men to insert objects or beat them as a result. which demonstrates this is not about their sexual gratification. It is about anger and rage and hatred towards women and wishing to enact violence on women. And I should not have to say this, but sex should be about mutual pleasure. It should be mutually consented to. And if the reality of rape were just men being so stupid that they don't understand in the moment that women aren't into it, then they are having sex in a way that pleasure and the consent of their partner is unimportant, which is also, again, rooted in severe misogyny and patriarchy. Men's sexual gratification is mandatory in how we define sex. It is defined by men's sexual arousal. Their enjoyment is expected. That's just not true of women. And what we consider sex on its own is usually not enough to bring the majority of women to climax. That men could be having sex with women and not notice that their partner is unwilling, the fact that they're not asking or checking that this is in doubt, demonstrates the extent of rape culture and the problem with our patriarchal view of sex. Likewise, if this were the reality of rape, if it were innocent men just not knowing that their partner isn't consenting, and they're just raping them by accident, the same men should be shouting the importance of consent education from the rooftops. But they are actually the ones most vocally opposed to consent education. Because, I don't know, honestly, but in my mind, it's because they want that shadow of doubt, that gray area, that if they do assault someone, that they can say they didn't know, and that this to be a normal excuse. I'm constantly disappointed in the type of men who are fixated on gender equality and dismantling the patriarchy, and being against it because it might threaten a bit of their convenience, even when it grants so much and helps them in so many ways, because masculinity is not helpful to men, not in the way we define it now. It is absurd to me that so many men are mindlessly loyal to the way we define masculinity, despite it hurting them so deeply, and simultaneously ensuring that they cannot admit, show, or process that hurt. Because patriarchy does not serve good men. It enables bad men. Yet where are all these good men standing up for all of us, knowing that it hurts them too?